You're listening to the Backroom Beer League podcast with your hosts, Jacob, Nigel, and Greg. Bringing you your fantasy sports content recorded from the back room. To stay up to date, follow us at BRBL Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and rate the podcast to show us your support. Now, here's Jacob, Nigel, and Greg to talk fantasy sports.
We're recording episode 16 at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, June 3rd. You're listening to Jacob, Nigel, and Greg. And before anything, all of us here would like to acknowledge the seriousness of the situation in the U.S. right now. I know we don't tend to talk about serious topics on the podcast, hardly ever, if at all, because we like to focus on the world of sports. And for many, sports is a part of life that they believe to be an escape from life's real issues. You don't have to worry about things like this and what's going on in the U.S. right now. But we believe as a podcast, it's our duty to stand in solidarity with the Black community right now in their time of need. We might only have a small following and a small voice, but it's important to express your support in whatever way you can, and that's what we're doing. We believe the voices of the oppressed need to be amplified. Real and meaningful change must be won. And we believe that Black lives truly do matter. As for the podcast this week, we have our first guest on the podcast, and I'd like to welcome, and I'm sure my other two co-hosts would also like to welcome, the Green Bay Packers aficionado and all-around entertaining football personality, Tom Grossi. The show will be a discussion just like any other, but we're going to get to know Tom with a couple of questions right off the bat, and then we're going to dive into the thick of things with a full-on podcast dedicated to fantasy football and just football talk in general. So welcome to the show, Tom, and just to start things off, rather than me listing off your information, I thought it might be better if you just tell everyone listening a little bit about yourself and the content you put out.
Oh, all right. So I can't even get like an intro. All right. I see how it is. Okay. So listen, the guy comes in and he's like, I'm a Bears fan. And then he's like, you know what? You piece of garbage. Introduce yourself. I'm gonna hype you up. Nah, you come in here and you tell me why you're important. Tell me why you're on this show right now. You tell me why. Hey, I'm Tom Grossi. I make YouTube videos.
This is a murder.
Make YouTube videos in my basement. I guess like there's some people that like me, and yeah, Tom Grossi. You want an intro? That's what I got for you.
Man, that's too relatable. That's.
I gave you the opportunity to plug as much shit as you wanted.
Absolutely
and pump up your own tires.
Nope. I'm gonna rock in this humble. I'm gonna go in so humble. I'm gonna be like, I'm just a poor boy. Nobody loves me. That's it. That's it. I'm Tom Grossi. I make YouTube videos. I don't know where you can find me, but
all right. Thanks, Tom.
I don't. You know what, guys? I don't even watch football. That's the thing. Like, I've never watched a down of football in my life, so I don't even know why you guys had on me. You know, Nigel reached out to me, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." Like, people kept asking me, and I was like, "Sure, you know, we can make it work." And yeah, that's what I got. That's my story.
Well, as someone who's never watched football before, do you actually want to talk about some fantasy football?
Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely love to. I won my league last year, so you know I'm pretty good. I mean, it was just I was the only one in the league, but like yeah, I did real good. So I had to get like 9 and 7 seasons, so it was really successful.
Hey, that's Super Bowl for the Bears, dude.
Oh God, man! At what point? So we're 2.5 minutes in, not even. At what point are we going to regret this?
Jacob's definitely got like the gun loaded, and he's just gonna like talk it at the next phrase.
This is the best podcast I've been on all week, and that includes my own. So I'm good with it.
Man, I knew this was a mistake when I seen Tom Grossi because I know how much Nigel shares you on his Twitter, and I see Packers. And I'm like, I'm going to get massacred in this podcast. And
I know. I mean, it's like the 2010 NFC Championship all over again. It's just, constant. It's just, but you know what? As long as you stay in the podcast and don't quit like Jay Cutler, you know what? I'll at least, I'll hold you to a higher regard.
Tom is the figurative BJ Raji hula dancing in your end zone.
Oh, I am dancing all over the place right now. Yeah, let's talk fantasy football, guys.
Now that Jacob's on suicide watch.
Yeah, I'm just going to stay silent for the whole podcast. I'm just going to weep the whole podcast.
Listen, you know what? You live your truth. That's all you got to do.
You still have the Jim McMahon days. I wasn't alive, but the glory days, man.
Still holding on to it.
Hey, listen, he also won a ring as a Packer. He was Fire's backup.
Yeah, that's it. It's all good. We're good. We're totally good. Listen, 1985, I was semen, but it's good. It's fine. It's fine. I can remember back to the 80s. They were hip. They were retro. Sure. Yeah, Bears. Good. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's do it, guys. I'm ready. I'm so ready. Let's talk fantasy football.
No. What happened here is Nigel proposed this idea to me weeks ago and to Greg weeks ago. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Our first guest, whatever. And little did I know. Little did I know.
I plotted a murder.
It was a hit job. You whacked me.
The paycheck will be in the mail.
Boys, this is our moment. This is it. This is what puts us on the map. Ah, shit. Never mind.
Jacob's our sacrifice.
The sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Listen, sometimes we all just got to go through it, and we come out better on the other side. Not the Bears, but we definitely can do this.
Had to pick
football. I'm so ready.
Yeah.
I just need an exhale to 7.5 minutes of pain.
That's it. Oh, I'm Tom Grossi. I have a YouTube channel called Tom Grossi. There you go. I give more every time I introduce myself. I'll just introduce myself sporadically throughout the show. First question, guys. I'm ready.
All right.
Sleepers. Who are your sleepers for this year in fantasy football?
I thought you were going to be like, you know what? I'm not even going to give you a full question with a question mark. I'm just going to start word association. Sleepers. Just dead silence. Let's sit here in dead silence for 2 minutes. My sleepers, man, I've been thinking about this a lot. Sleepers for this year. I think one of the biggest sleepers is going to be Melvin Gordon. Yeah, didn't expect a real answer, did you?
Hey, yes, sir. Keep going.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon, I think, is going to be a sleeper. Obviously, I think actually having fans in the stadium will be a huge boost for him because he hasn't had that his entire career as a Chargers player. So that will be a big one. But I think, honestly, the Broncos are going to have a hell of an offense this year. Cortland
Keep
Sutton
talking, Tom. Keep talking. Keep going.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Uh-oh.
Wait. First of all, pull your pants up. Second of all, are you a Broncos fan?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I'm scared. What's gonna happen this
No, it's cool. I totally have gotten over Super Bowl 32. No. I totally gotten over that. Yeah, no. Okay. All right, cool. Oh, cool. All right. I heard someone, I heard the zipping of the pants, and I was like, okay, that's weird, but that just might be a technical thing. But you know what? Actually, the Broncos, did I say Melvin Gordon? No, I meant anyone else. Anyone else. No, I think the Broncos, though, they're going to have a really good offense this year. Drew Lock is another one who I think could definitely be one of those late round picks that could sneak up on you. And then also, talking about the Cardinals as well. They're another one that basically that entire offense, Kyler Murray was reached a little bit last year. I think he could definitely come in. He put up some solid statistics for fantasy last year. I think he could do really, really well. And even guys like Michael Gallup, when you have a very good Cowboys offense, Gallup has been on the team for a while already. And I think, with obviously CeeDee Lamb and then bringing in Amari Cooper, he could get a lot of looks because guys like Amari are going to get doubled up and, a lot of attention might go to CeeDee Lamb. So, yeah, those are the ones that are sticking out to me at the moment.
Yeah, well, sorry, Jake. You go ahead.
Well, actually, it has something to do with you have talked about on the podcast before. Greg likes to bring up Raheem Mostert. Not even as a sleeper sometimes. He just likes to say his name. But do you think Raheem Mostert is a sleeper this year, as Greg did last week? Was it? Did you bring it up, Greg?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Why? NFC Championship game. That's it. That's the only reason why. Yeah, no, I think Raheem Mostert is going to get more looks in that offense. I definitely think that he would. I think that he would be a good, solid RB2 to pick up. 100%.
Yeah. Especially with Breida leaving.
That too.
Yeah, exactly. It opens up more room in the backfield. It allows him to get more touches. I mean, I don't know if I'd put him at RB1 because obviously he kicked the ever-living crap out of the Packers. That was like the greatest game he'll ever have in his life just because we were like, no, we're not going to stop the run. But other teams most likely will. So, yeah, no, I think he's a solid RB2 or flex option.
Yeah. Not every team's going to have Blake Martinez to have a brain aneurysm on the field.
Blake Martinez. Well, thankfully we don't either. So he's the Giants' problem now. He can go make tackles 5 yards after the line of scrimmage with them. That's fine.
I don't think Jake heard me curse a name more than Blake Martinez all last year.
Yeah, I can't stand blame you. It's
Every time Nigel would watch a Packers game, Martinez would drop back in coverage and he'd just go, "Oh." And then you just watch Kittle. You just watch Kittle run a slant for about 15 yards. And you just hear Nigel croak every time he dropped back.
It hurt.
It literally, it was one of those things that like, oh man, the Packers are so fake and they kept winning and winning and winning. And the 49ers like, nah, I got this. Like, we're just going to literally, and it wasn't even like a game plan that was complicated in any way, shape, or form. Jimmy Garoppolo honestly could have sat on the beach that day and they still would have won the game. Like Jimmy Garoppolo wheeled out there in a wheelchair and still won that game. We got no pressures on him. And it was just like, here you go, Raheem. You go have fun, buddy. And he was just like, okay, I will. And that's how they won that game.
Now, it was funny that it's kind of a coincidence that you brought up the Cardinals because a couple weeks ago I talked about how Kenyon Drake could explode this year, being a number one running back.
I think.
Do you see that happening? I love it. I love the pick.
Yes, the only concern I have is I still have some trepidations about that offensive line. It got better last year. It definitely got better. They addressed it in the draft, but that'd be my only hesitancy. But I think that, in order to keep Kyler Murray alive, yeah, I think they'll be relying on Drake a lot. And I think that he proved himself last year to be that, especially with David Johnson going out. I mean, that's basically all they have at this point. So, yeah, I think 100% if you could pick him up in some of the later rounds, I think he's absolute steal. Now, definitely. I do think that some people will reach for him, but if you're sitting there at the fourth round or fifth round, I think you absolutely roll the dice with him.
Well, the game that kind of proved him for me was that Seahawks game where Murray went out and they put Brett Hundley in, and I watched Kenyon Drake still dismantle the Seahawks single-handedly, and I said, okay, this kid got dealt a shitty hand in Miami, but he can play.
And then that's the thing too. Like Miami is known for their terrible offensive line. Like Tua is probably not going to play this year because he's just like, hey guys, I don't want to die. Like that's just it. Yeah, so Fitz will just be like, that's okay, my beard can take it, and so he'll sit back there for a little bit. But yeah, no, I think, coming out of Miami, he's going to get a lot of opportunities. Coming in halfway through the season, they'll be able to, open the playbook for him too. He has that speed too. He's an elusive back. He's not the power back guy, that you hand to on the 1 yard line. But I think, especially in a PPR league, yeah, he can turn some heads.
Yeah, I literally picked up Kenyon Drake probably I want to say third, fourth, maybe even fifth week off the waiver wire last year, just because I needed a running back. Yeah. And we talked about it before on the podcast when he was mentioned as one of our weekly picks that he was such a value add to anyone who had him last season, because once he got shipped off to Arizona, like, and he was good before he got shipped off to Arizona too. It should be noted that, you know, that was a good place he was playing in. But I think next year he's just going to probably explode in value. And I think you're right too, though, that some people might reach for him and they might kind of pay for it. You don't know if it's real or fake, what he was putting up last year, but who knows? Like, he could have a really good year this year too.
Yeah, and I think in the other thing that gives me a little bit of pause, you know, the Seahawks defense is definitely not what it used to be, but the 49ers, like, they're playing them twice a year. They have a ridiculously good defense. And then the Rams, honestly, who the hell knows what's going on with the Rams? I think the opportunities will be there for them. But, you know, that entire division, I think, is the best division in football, because you have obviously the 49ers, you have the Seahawks, and I think the Cardinals are in. I mean, maybe this is jumping the gun a little bit too early. I think they're in contention for, like, that's, you know, first off 7 seed. Yeah. I think that they could definitely, you know, make a run for that. So I think, you know, if they're going to make a playoff push, they're going to be relying on Drake a lot.
Yeah. I think that the Cardinals should definitely push for another one of their remaining pass rushers that are available in free agency, because right now that defense is kind of just relying so heavily on Chandler Jones.
Yep.
And if they add another piece, I mean, I totally agree with you with that offense, with the potential it has. Yeah, I see them sneaking in.
Yeah.
So I think, Nigel, I'm probably just going to get this out of the way fairly early in the recording. Nigel wants to know who the biggest Packers fantasy sleepers are this year, I think. Ooh. I think that was what he wrote down.
Okay.
I've got a few, and I just want to see if they match up.
Yes, I added them. Okay. So off the top of my head, here are the guys I think are flying under the radar completely. You know, you obviously have Devontae Adams. He's not a sleeper anymore. But Jace Sternberger, if you're in need of a tight end, I think that, yeah, he is definitely going to be utilized a lot more, especially with them bringing back Mercedes Lewis to be a primary blocker, them drafting DeGuara, who I think is going to be back there primarily for blocking. You know, the guy can be effective in the passing game, but Jace Sternberger coming out of college was a pass threat. Obviously, he got hurt last year, wasn't able to play a whole lot. And then when he came back in, they utilized him more as like a fullback or whatever. But I think, like, if you're like, oh crap, I don't have a tight end, you know, rolling with Jace Sternberger might not be the worst idea, especially because, you know, it's not the Mike McCarthy offense anymore where we just never utilize tight ends ever. So I would feel comfortable enough, you know, taking a gamble on Jace Sternberger. And then when you're starting to look at other guys, A.J. Dillon for the back half of the year, the guy we just drafted, the majority of the games at the end of the season are in Lambeau. It's going to be December. They're going to be running a lot. If you need somebody to just be like kind of like that ball hawk or the touchdown vulture, like it just like basically just like steal some TDs, could get him, but I would, you know, hold him for the later part of the season because Aaron Jones is going to dominate that. But the big guys that I'm thinking is MVS and or EQ. Alan Lazard kind of like pushed his head in last year, and I think that he'll go relatively high since he's like the clear number 2 at this second. But if you need like a deep, deep sleeper, I think EQ coming fresh off of injury has a lot to prove. And MVS, honestly, this is a make or break it year for him. If he doesn't perform this year, he's not going to be on the team the following season. And he has the speed. He's the only Packers wide receiver on the team that has that deep threat speed. And he showcased it a little bit last year and then fell off just like he did the previous season. But those are like my main guys, you know, if you're looking for deep, deep sleepers, MVS, EQ, or Jace Sternberger.
I'm a very high on EQ from watching when he's played. And to me right now, in my opinion, he's the clear-cut second best route runner on the team behind Devontae. So if he can put all that together, I think he can easily be a good receiver. I think he'll easily be slept on, and I think he could cement himself as the 3 this year.
Yeah, no, I think the thing is, he's going to fall. Like, he's going to fall. And like fantasy drafts, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes undrafted in the vast majority of leagues. So like, if you're sitting there like with the last pick and you're just like, all right, I filled all the needs of my team. Yeah, I would take a flyer on him.
I know Nigel actually I think you're kind of in the same boat as Tom when you say MVS it's kind of his make or
Big
break
time.
year this year.
He showed flashes like that game against Denver on that free play, and that first game against the Bears where he caught that long trick play and a few other things. Like he showed flashes, and especially in Oakland, he played really well. But after that foot injury, he seemed to just like his confidence just dipped, and he was dropping easy catches and just making a lot of mistakes that he really needs to fix. And if he does fix, I think he has a lot of potential.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, the big question is like, will he do it? Like, will he fulfill that potential? I mean, or is he going to go like the Jamon Moore route? But it's definitely a make or break for him.
Obviously, LaFleur, Goody, and them think so. So I hope they're right.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna need somebody to step up, please. please.
Pretty please. I don't have to watch Gmo drop passes anymore, so I'm okay.
That is a positive.
I want to make a peace offering to you, Tom.
Rejected, 100%. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll hear it out. I'll hear it out.
Yeah, hear me out. I want you to give an unbiased take. And I say unbiased because you ripped me to shreds in the first 7.5 minutes of this podcast. An unbiased take on how good you think the Bears could actually be this season.
Wait. How is that a peace offering? That's like, hey, Tom, I want you to say things about the Bears, and I'm kind of implying that you should say really nice things about the Bears. I feel like I don't get anything out of that. Like, you're just like, Tom, you abused me for 7.5 minutes. And it was 7.5 minutes of my podcasting career. But tell me how the Bears are going to do. Okay, you know what? The olive branch has been extended. I will graciously and humbly grab it because as a Packers fan, we have to be the better people. So the Chicago Bears, their defense is still going to be top 10 in just about every single category. I think, they dipped last year, even on defense. Their running game was non-existent last year, and their team 100% suffered for it. But they were still top 10. I think they were top 5 in points allowed on defense. They were 9th in passing yards and 9th in rushing yards, which was obviously worse than the previous year. But their defense is going to keep them in games. Honestly, what it's going to depend on is how Nick Foles does. And I mean that in the nicest way possible, because Trubisky, I feel like if you bring in a QB, which you trade, what was it, a 4th rounder for? It wasn't a whole lot. A 4th round for it, but you're paying him $21 million guaranteed. You do have an out in 2 years, but there's no way that guy is not starting unless he just sucks in camp, which will then make the front office look even worse. So honestly, I'm not concerned about the defensive side of the ball. They're going to be good. Offense, are you going to utilize the run? Because last year, if I'm not mistaken, hold on, because I just wrote this down, they were 27th in rushing yards, and that was atrocious, and it showed. You have David Montgomery, who showed absolute flashes. I remember sitting here in preseason games and going, oh, crap, that guy's going to be really good. And then they just barely utilized him. Trubisky obviously did not improve and did not get better, but neither did that offensive line, which was addressed later in the draft. So who knows if that's going to stick. And then obviously you have targets. Is Jimmy Graham going to be your savior? No, it's just he's not going to be. I know Nick Foles gets along really, really well with tight ends, which is why you have 11 of them on the team. Komet, I think he's going to be good, but it's very difficult for tight ends to come in and make an immediate impact. If you don't believe me, just look at TJ Hawkinson from last year, a top 10 pick, who showed flashes and then not so much. So I think the Bears under Nick Foles can do better than they were with Trubisky, but I also have some serious concerns about Nick Foles himself. The guy has been inconsistent. Obviously, he won a Super Bowl for the Eagles and had the most amazing playoff run, but the guy has never played a full season in his entire career, which would be concerning. He's coming off a fresh injury, and then he was beaten out by Gardner Minshew. So I would have a lot of concerns about your QB. But honestly, if you just have someone back there to hand off the ball to David Montgomery and you commit to that, you will be in better shape than you were last year. I
really think that David Montgomery was underutilized by Nagy last year.
Yeah, that would be my big thing. If you guys do that and if there's a slight improvement on the offense, you'll be in contention again.
Me and Jake devised a theory last year that the whole season was a wash because Matt Nagy wanted Ryan Pace to bench Trubisky. Matt Nagy's plan.
I mean,
it's a very real possibility.
The thing is, like, what I would find very frustrating, and as a Packer fan, I absolutely love watching the dumpster fire that's going on in Chicago. Absolutely. But if I was a fan, I would have to be pissed off because it basically seems like there's one thing being said by the front office, and then their actions are completely and totally different. You have Mitch Trubisky come out, and listen, he didn't play well. There were some games where he played great. He utilized his legs a lot. The game against the Cowboys, he did really well. But, I think he had 2 really good games back to back and then fell off the cliff again. But I would also argue that if you're going to say that, Mitch Trubisky is one of the main problems, you also have to address other issues on that offense, which there were many of. And if you're an organization to say Mitch Trubisky is our guy, and then you bring in Nick Foles, and then you say it's an open competition, I feel like at just some point, you either have to say, listen, Trubisky's not the answer. We're done. I know they didn't renew him or extend him for the 5th year. But why are you playing these games? You're bringing in Nick Foles and you're saying, okay, yeah, let the best QB win. There is not a chance that Trubisky has to be a starter for the Bears week 1. And I mean, unless Nick Foles literally implodes on the field, because then if Trubisky starts, you just wasted $21 million. And for me, I don't get it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make. And I think that you're right. Trubisky did show some real signs of actual competence. You were saying the game against Dallas last year. I watched that game. I think Nigel was with me too, actually. I was betting on that game and I won money because I bet on the Bears and I was expecting to lose money big time. I bet $50 or something. I don't know. But I bet on that game and I was like, holy shit, Trubisky is actually playing good for once. He actually looks like a competent quarterback. And I fear that he's kind of been ruined by us now, considering he just pretty much got thrown into the fire. And we had Jay Cutler just vamoose as soon as he got there, and he had no real time to develop, right? So I think this is my last year. I'm kind of giving Trubisky a pass and saying, okay, maybe your O-line wasn't the best in years past. We've upgraded it a little bit more now. So if you have this O-line in front of you this year, and that was the real problem, then show us that was the real problem.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes total sense to me. And I mean, and you bring up the Dallas game too. And if I'm not mistaken, they also ran the ball really efficiently too. I'm pretty sure they had over 150 yards. That's what I'm saying. Trubisky is never going to be the guy that you traded him up to be. He's at this point, let's be honest, right? He's not going to be that guy that you gave up the picks for. He's not, the first rounder who's going to be the savior of the team, elite quarterback. But at the same time, you could still utilize him. He still can be utilized because there are plenty of teams that do not have elite quarterbacks and are still able to win Super Bowls. And I'm going to say this nicely. Look at Peyton Manning in his last year. He was a corpse. He literally was a corpse out there. The guy could barely throw the ball, and that defense won him the game. So I think it's funny because you have the people who are like, oh my God, the Green Bay Packers are wasting Aaron Rodgers' prime, blah, 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 blah. And with the Bears, it's just the opposite problem because you start looking at the defense and go, okay, how much longer can we keep this group together, so that we can make a run?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, in terms Tom, you were saying that there's no future you can see of Trubisky starting week 1, and I don't disagree with that at all. In terms of Nick Foles and that offense, I feel like we talked about how this could be Trubisky's last year to prove himself valuable. I think this is Nick Foles. He, in the eyes of the media, he's got to prove himself this year if he doesn't want to be remembered for that guy who made one Super Bowl run and went off into the sunset.
Yeah, I mean, Foles wants to play and he's a competitor, but I think it's just I wouldn't put all my eggs in the Nick Foles basket just because there are a lot of red flags for me. The injuries, the not being able to play a full season, the inconsistency, because even when he's played well, he's played inconsistent. And again, like he just got beaten out by Gardner Minshew, and that's not an insult to Gardner Minshew. Like it's
a sixth round rookie.
It is. Right? That's the thing too. It's a rookie in his first season, and Minshew went through a period where he did not play well, and then he still was put in instead of Nick Foles. And again, that's not saying that Nick Foles can't be successful. It's just, again, I would temper expectations, but he very may well be just what they need to get over the hump.
Right. Yeah. Maybe get Anthony Miller more involved with the offense. Get Ted Ginn is new there. Yeah. So we'll see if that makes a difference.
Yeah, it's going to be, I'm very curious to see what their offense is going to look like, but I feel like if you're Nagy, you have to develop a run first mentality. And then you have a QB in Nick Foles who can make the throws and not lose you the game, when he needs to.
Also, speaking of prove it in Matt Nagy, I think Nagy's going to prove something this year too.
Yeah, I would say him and Pace, because Pace is always going to be tied to the Trubisky thing, and if Foles blows up in his face too, it's not going to be pretty, folks.
I think as a Bears fan, I strongly believe that any outcome that is short of a Super Bowl win this year, Pace is gone.
Oof, should be.
I literally think that, because I think the fan base is. I mean, we're not rioting in the streets and saying Pace should be gone, Pace should be gone, Pace should be gone because of the decisions we've made. A lot of people are pissed off because of the Trubisky pick, and a lot of people are pissed off about other decisions that he's made in the past. But I think that it just seems that way. It just seems like the Bears don't really know what they want to do right now, and I think their only answer, if we don't do something great this year, is to clean house in the front office and tear it down from the bottom in terms of QB and offense.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a waste, because I think what's going to end up happening is that we're going to tear it down in the front office, head coach, everything. We're going to get a new QB, draft a new QB in the next draft, and our defense is going to go to waste.
Yeah, I think, and that's the concern, right? You bring in Khalil Mack the first year, you guys absolutely kill it. And again, I would argue that first year, you definitely, and I promise is not an insult, overachieved. And you walked in and you were oh, and I thought that they were going to be even better last year. When I was doing predictions, I said the Bears were going to win the division. But again, the thing that concerns me is, if I'm a Bears fan, that defense can only stay there for so long. Because is Eddie Jackson still on his rookie deal?
I think he's on his 4th year now.
That I think he is.
They probably picked up his 5th year option. I don't know if I've heard about it, but I assume they would.
Yeah, that's actually one contract that slips my mind. I'm not even.
I think he was drafted same year as Trubisky, so that last year of Fox. So this would be his 4th year.
Yeah, that actually might be true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 4-year, 58.4. When was this? Oh, in 2020. Oh, he just re-signed. I'm sorry.
Shit.
I honestly didn't even realize that. Yeah, re-signed in January for 4 years.
I didn't see that.
Okay. Nope, totally missed that one.
Obviously, I didn't either, because I'm the Bears fan.
Well, there you go. But what I'm saying is, some of those guys are going to get really pricey really quickly, and Khalil Mack is another one. How many more years you have of him? I think it's just a matter of, it's all about those windows, man. You're in a spot now where maybe there will be some overlap if you're just okay, if we go and get let's just say this year's a wash on offense. If we go and get a QB in the draft, we essentially have 4 to 5 years, if we pick him in the first round, for a Super Bowl window when we don't have to pay him mega money if the QB works out, which is obviously a big if. And that's really, I think, kind of been the recipe for success for teams to make and win the Super Bowl is you got to pay your QB super duper cheap, have them be talented, and just spend a crap ton of money and put some ridiculous talent around them.
Yeah, we pretty much fully committed to the immovable object strategy versus the unstoppable force strategy this year, because we signed Robert Quinn, and it's bolstering the defense even more. So yeah, I do hope that Foles and Trubisky can prove something this year and actually have a decent offensive production to push us further into maybe a potential playoff spot. But I guess we'll have to see.
Yep. Time will tell.
Yeah, and you were talking about windows, and I know Nigel is really high on this topic of maybe a new window opening for the Buffalo Bills.
I'm like a closet Bills fan. That's the AFC team I root for. I've made that bold step. I'm saying they're the number one defense in the NFL this year. If we have a season, I've made that call. I'm risking the biscuit.
Ooh.
I just think that
there you go.
Sean McDermott's so smart, and they didn't lose anything. Like, yeah, they lost Shaq Thompson, but AJ Epinesa, when they got him, was a steal. And, Ed Oliver's, if he, whatever happened with that arrest comes out, whatever, if he doesn't get suspended, should take steps. Trey White is arguably the best corner in the league. They got Micah Hyde. Fuck you, Ted Thompson. Jordan Poyer, Josh Norman, who everybody shits on, but he played his best years with McDermott in Carolina and now won't have to be corner one. And if Josh Allen takes the step that he should be able to now with Stephon Diggs, I can easily see them becoming a good team, like a strong Super Bowl window team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, what's interesting, too, is that's another one where talk about QBs that are on hot seats. That's Josh Allen, because at this point, they've put a team around him. They're going to have a ridiculously good defense. They went out, they spent their first round pick on getting Stephon Diggs. They have the weapons, now and they have the running back. It's now up to Josh Allen to be that QB that they drafted him to be. And if he is, yeah, watch out. That team's going to be really, really good, especially in a division that is very, very vulnerable.
The Tom Brady-less AFC East is a power grab. For whatever team can grab it and run, I think we'll take it. And if Josh Allen takes the steps, he's got a cannon. Like the only thing I'm high on Josh Allen for, every problem he has right now is fixable. It's not his measurables. It's not his athleticism. It's like the things that with good coaching and, practice can be fixed. It's the same things people complain about Lamar Jackson, who was able to fix those issues from what it seemed in his second year. So I think Josh Allen can tighten up his accuracy with that cannon he's got. Holy shit.
I'm really excited to see the future of the AFC East with that Bills team and the potential that they have. And I also think that Miami has an extremely bright future. If they address some of the needs that they have, that can be quite the rivalry going down the road.
Flores is a hell of a coach, and they spent a fuckload of money.
Hell yeah.
Miami spent money. They did the tanking the right way.
They couldn't tank Cincinnati.
They did.
But I don't even think Cincinnati tried to tank. I think they were just kind of like, okay, guys, go play football.
They were brutal. Cincinnati, that wasn't tanking.
Joe Mixon was just where's the team?
Yeah, the Dolphins, I feel like they're not going to be good this year, just because, again, I feel like, their draft it's brand new rookies. A lot of rookies don't walk on the field and immediately produce. I think Tua's going to sit for the vast majority, if not the entire season, and get his full starts next year. And then you're going to start to see the Dolphins really pick it up if they have another good draft. I looked at them and, I have to say, while I do think that they definitely went full rebuild mode, trading Minkah Fitzpatrick, Minkah Fitzpatrick was
so dumb.
Football player. That one, and I understand they got a first rounder out of it, but that one, I mean, they basically lost value though, because they picked Minkah Fitzpatrick way before the pick that they actually got from the Steelers. But I think it's just a matter of that defense needs a lot of work. And I think if they're able to get to that point, then great. But them losing Cameron Wake, who showed that he could still play football, they definitely still have some steps to take, but they're definitely going in the right direction. And yeah, they could definitely pose a fun rivalry with the Bills.
Yeah, and going back to fantasy football for a second, I know we wanted to get a little bit input on some advice you give to a first-time fantasy football player.
Yeah, I mean, well, humble brag. The first time I ever played fantasy football, I won the championship. That's right. Yup, I did it. Guys, hold a round of applause, please. So, Yeah, and honestly, I just did it because like I picked Aaron Rodgers as my QB and was like, oh, okay. So I think, when it comes to fantasy football, what I enjoy about it so much is, one, not only does it kind of make you put more stock into other games that you might find unwatchable because then you start watching them, but you really learn about so many players on so many teams. And that's what I absolutely love about it. Like I could know, who the running backs are in Baltimore, and before that I would have no idea. Or like in Cleveland or whatever. And I think like that's what's really cool about it. And when it comes to being like a first year, I mean, I think honestly, like you pick the people that you pick the people that you like, you enjoy, and you kind of just learn. I mean, no one expects you to do amazing your first year, but if you were like, oh no, I got to get a championship my first year, do a crap ton of mock drafts, like a crap ton of mock drafts, go on the NFL one or the ESPN one or whatever. Every now and then troll people and pick Tim Tebow in the first round so it ruins the whole draft just in case you want to see the world go on fire. Do a lot of mock drafts and essentially just, build the team that you want to build. And then you'll have so many learning experiences within the first few weeks. And listen, even if you draft complete crap, you can still do really, really well in fantasy football by having, great acumen in the free agency. So free agency is your friend, and don't be afraid to pick people up, make mistakes, but of course, have fun. There you go. I'm a little league coach now.
Well, that kind of aligns. Like we've done things like this, and my biggest segment for like advice was taking risks, and I pulled examples last year. My team shit the bed at the start of the year. Saquon got hurt and a bunch of just shit went downhill. And about midway through the season, Russell Wilson kind of started to fade out, and I went to the free agency and I picked up Ryan Tannehill and AJ Brown, and they fucking led me to the championship. Well, consolation championship, whatever. I won. I got very close, but I started like 0-4 and was able to 180. And another risk I took Aaron Jones, which a lot of people, I took him, I think at like my third pick, and that fucking paid dividends.
Oh yeah.
But
16 rushing touchdowns.
My also a risk on Ben Roethlisberger bit me in the ass because I drafted him higher than I definitely should have, and then his elbow went out his asshole and he was out.
You want to talk about risks, Nige? I took AB with my first pick.
Because you took Zeke with your first.
No, my second pick, sorry. Yeah, first pick sounds absolutely bonkers. I know. I took Zeke with my first pick. I took AB with my second, and it screwed me for the whole season. He had that one good
game, the only one he played.
All right, guys, here's some great advice. First timers, never pick Antonio Brown. I don't care what team he goes on.
I'd stay away from AB and Josh Gordon.
I
can't tell you. Everyone, as soon as he comes back to whatever team, everyone's like, "Oh, free agency, got to fight for it." And I'm just like, he's going to be
draft Gronk. That's another thing. I don't think he'll do well. That's my piece of that.
Oh, he's going to be a reach and a half. He's going to be gone.
Him and Brady will both go way too high.
Yep.
Y'all know damn well that Patriots fans that don't really know football but claim they do because they watch them in the AFC Championship every year. They'll get all hot and horny, and then they'll go and pick Tom Brady and Gronk in rounds 3 and 4.
They'll light some candles. They'll slip into a bath, and then they'll pop open their laptop and go draft.
I bet you what they're gonna do is they're gonna go Gronk round 1, Brady round 2, and then just hit auto draft.
No, Mike Evans, they'll go for
bye weeks exist, and they'll just Buccaneers homer the shit out of it.
That's it. That's fine. It's free picks.
Homers are a blessing unless you're one.
100%.
Yeah, that was actually my advice when we did this segment on for first timers. I was like, for the love of God, don't be a homer. Like that is like everyone else in your league is gonna absolutely love it, but you're done for.
Yeah, unless like your team is like God. Like if you are like 2011 and you pick just Packers players on offense,
true,
then you're great. Obviously not running backs, but like then you're great. Then you're wonderful. Like if you got Jordy Nelson, Randall, you got all those guys, you're wonderful. But yeah, usually it doesn't go well at all.
No.
I straight up wasted a pick. Like I knew I wasted a pick. I picked Mitch Trubisky in the draft.
And you started him week 1, and I think you still fucking beat me too.
Yeah. Yeah,
my team was like on paper they projected me to be like the finish first in the league, And then by like week 2, they were like, yeah, you're going to finish last.
Well, like if we were playing for money in our fantasy football, because we were playing for a case of beer in our fantasy football league last year, like I go hardcore in fantasy baseball, and Nigel knows this. Like I have a dynasty league, I have minor league players, I have like, prospect draft and all that shit. So it's really in depth, and we play for money. I put $120 Canadian into, which is roughly like somewhere near $100 US, into a pot with like 12 people. So it's definitely, you don't pick a Mitch Trubisky of baseball in that draft, but I felt like I could just pick Mitch Trubisky for fun, and I did. And
when I was making the league, I realized beer is more incentivizing to a bunch of college students than money that they don't have to put into a pot. I was like, case of beer, and then the guys were like, okay.
Well, people be pulling money out of their student loan to play fantasy football. I mean, that's a bit ridiculous.
What do you mean, man? Let's do it.
You just called Nigel out.
No, I didn't. I don't.
Like, accidentally, but you did.
Well, I have to
Mom
say,
and Dad, no, I swear that I'm not using student loan money for that.
Not at all. Don't worry about it.
why does it say right here? There's a payment to CBS Sports. That's
because I'm going into broadcasting. Mom, God damn. Yeah, exactly. You wanted me to be informed, Mom?
I'll say this. My surprise pick of fantasy football last year, off the waiver wire, was Jameis Winston. And yeah, everybody laughs at this pick because it's like, well, why would you even touch that guy? I knew he was going to get 6 picks a game. I knew that going into it. And when Patrick Mahomes, the QB I had all season, kind of went a bit lower in the points per game near the end of the season, they were kind of resting him. They didn't want to go like full bore with him. I picked up Jameis Winston, knowing he was going to throw 5 to 6 picks a game, also knowing he was going to throw 5 to 6 touchdowns on a good day, and it actually paid off. Believe it or not, I got like 30 points a game sometimes with that guy. Like, unless he completely screwed the pooch and threw like 8 picks a game, 0 touchdowns,
I didn't have a bad
paid for it.
Quarterback last year. Like I had Russell Wilson. Then on Russell Wilson's bye week, I took Josh Allen, and he put up 40 points against the Dolphins. And then when Russell Wilson faded out, I picked up Ryan Tannehill, who was averaging like 25 points a game at that point. Like I was safe in that department. It was just my wide receivers were shit a lot.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, it's one of those things, like you get those random QBs, like you said with Jameis Winston, and it's a complete like toss of the coin. You're just like, I have no one else to start. This is either going to go really well or really, really poorly.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I bet Greg in the consolation championship with Jameis Winston. So
yeah, he kind of kicked my ass. Drew Brees decided he wanted to take a week off. Mike Thomas decided that, Drew Brees took a week off. So, and then all my running backs were hurt. So I had to stick with like Lev Bell and Mostert.
That was your rough first pick. I think.
Don't even get me started.
In our league, and this was just out of circumstance. One of our buddies took Todd Gurley with like pick 6.
Oh yeah, that. There you go.
That
That's the one.
Him, not me.
I laughed, but that one, yes.
Yeah, he also took Lamar in like the 4th or 5th
Lamar
round.
And Baker was his guy at her, and then Lamar just did ape shit. And
how do you think Baker's going to do this year, Tom?
Oh, that's a question of the year. I mean, the Browns, honestly, like their biggest issue last year was coaching. Obviously, their offensive line suffered dramatically, but they actually did the right thing and drafted an offensive lineman with their first pick. They have the weapons, and I think that defense can be very good. They have been building it up year after year after year. If Myles Garrett doesn't, smash another guy's head in with a helmet, I think that they could definitely be good. Denzel Ward, who I wanted for the Packers, so bad. They have a pretty good secondary. The pass rush is decently there. And I think, obviously you have OBJ. and numerous weapons, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. I think if Baker Mayfield is going to make a step, it's going to be with this new coach, because their coaching has just been inconsistent and has just been terrible. When you have a coach come out, basically saying the Steelers started it, it just looked like it was a complete free for all. And I think, if you actually get a good coach behind Baker, which I don't know if it's this guy, he will do better. But I feel like, he's just made way too many mistakes. He got a lot of hype really, really quickly after his rookie season. And now it's just about rebounding and showing him that, he's worth that first pick again.
I was literally on the Baker train until like the first 2 games of the season. And then I was like, all right.
I'm still high on him. He's talented. And Stefanski's going to be way... You can't get worse than Freddie Kitchens. You can't get worse than a draw on 4th and 11. And I'm surprised they pursued Clowney, and Clowney won't go. So I could easily see them spending on a guy like Clay Matthews late in his career. But because they need another pass rusher. But I could see the Browns, Austin Hooper is a good safety valve. They still have Njoku. Their wide receivers are fine. The Chubb and Hunt are both fine. Conklin was a good signing. They drafted O-line. They've shored up their problems. If they regress now, it is on Baker, 100%.
Yeah, I was going to say, Baker doesn't have any more excuses. And I'm a huge Baker fan. But he is set up for success. Similar to Josh Allen.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. He has all the tools. It's up for him to use them.
Yep.
Yeah. How are you for time, Tom? I know you might have a call
I got
imminently.
One in 6 minutes.
So do you want to wrap it up now then?
Yeah, totally up to you guys. If I could just be out in 6, we're good.
Okay. I think I'll wrap it up here anyway. That's it for this episode. Follow us at BRBL Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to the Backroom Beer League Podcast YouTube channel. And also hit up Tom's social media at Tom Grossi Comedy, correct. I believe it is.
That's the one.
On Twitter and Instagram.
I know. I just had to dig for information.
And subscribe to his YouTube channel, Tom Grossi. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming on, Tom.
Yeah, thanks.
That was all at once. Can we do that all again at the same time? It was great. You're all just yeah. No, guys, this was great. Honestly, this was the best podcast I've been on in weeks, and I've been on a lot of. This was great.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Quote it, and we'll have it for the rest of our days.
Yeah, people are gonna be really pissed off when they're just like, "Wait a minute, you were just on our podcast."
Whoopsies.